Hi guys. I've been meaning to make this video for a while. Today I just wanted to talk about this thing I did at the start of the pandemic. I got this idea when all the gyms were closed and people were just jacking up the prices of all of their old rusty workout equipment that hasn't seen the light of day for years. I was already working out for pretty much a decade at the time, and I decided I want to get in the best shape of my life. So I finally took the time to structure a routine, incorporated a lot of high intensity interval training and proper lifting. Before that, I was just going to the gym and just slamming the heaviest weights that I can. Kind of do like a power building hybrid routine with some like weighted calisthenics. And yeah, I got big, but I also got pretty fat because I was perma bulking, and I was just like, oh yeah, I'm not fat, I'm just bulking. I was like, okay, yeah, right, buddy. I was at a phase where after I completed a particular program called Infinite Intensity, I was trying out different routines, trying out different approaches, incorporating new workouts and ways of training. I got into mace bells. I made my own mace bell. I'll cover that in another video on how I did it. But then everything closed down. I already had some weights from a DIY project. With some of the money I saved up, I found a couple of deals on weights that people weren't jacking the prices up for. You know, they were just looking to make a quick buck, but I got them for a reasonable price. I also got some Iron Woody resistance bands because I knew I wasn't gonna have the amount of weight that I would need to maintain my strength. So I got the resistance bands as a convenient option to add on to certain exercises to add more resistance, or to just use them and try out other exercises with them. It's just to see how they worked out because I've heard great things about them. Granted, the thing with resistance bands is that because of their loop design and they're 41 inches long, you gotta angle it a certain way or hold it in a certain position in order to get the maximum tension. So as a response to that, I created a platform because I've seen other people do it, where they have this platform with like little short legs to loop the band under, and then you can do whatever exercise you need to create that maximum tension. I pretty much at that point had everything I needed for my own home gym, except for one problem. I picked up some weights for my brother off of Craigslist a couple years before that, and the guy just threw in this hollow steel barbell. He put on some light weights to do some like barbell cardio classes. I didn't think it would be able to hold the amount of weight that I had. I'm like, okay, this thing might end up collapsing if I'm deadlifting too heavy with it. So I figured, I'm like, well, what if I can reinforce it? Granted, I did this partly because sometimes I'll just DIY something just for the fuck of it, even if it's not that practical. I didn't want to pay a lot of money for these barbells that people were jacking up the prices for. I'm talking about used standard 1-inch hole barbells that most people would probably sell for $20 before the pandemic. We were jacking them up to like 80 to 100, and I was like, screw that. I'm gonna make my own way. I'm gonna figure my own way out of this. So I figured, I'm like, okay, as hollow barbell, what if I were to get a strong steel bar that is just slightly smaller in diameter than the inner diameter of the barbell that I already had? And I did that. I went on onlinemetals.com and they had cold finished 1018 steel. I can fit it in here, but in order for it to be snug, I wrapped up some sections of it with just enough Gorilla Tape to get snug in there. And then on top of that, I got JB Weld metal epoxy. I coated it in that, and then I shoved it in. I mean, I'm gonna show you a whole sped up video of me going through the whole process. The first thing I did was stabilize the outer bar with these clamps. I'm ripping off a piece of tape to put on one end of the bar. And now I'm putting the double-sided foam tape on the bottom of one of the paper plates I'll be using for the glue. I think I just decided to do this last minute and I wanted to double up the plates. Here I'm mixing up the epoxy. And it was very easy once I coated the first part of the bar and started sliding it in, and it was just a matter of evenly spreading a coat of the epoxy over the bar and pushing it in little by little. I needed to use a lot more epoxy than I anticipated, but luckily there was enough in both tubes. Having to drive back all the way to Home Depot to pick up another in the middle of this process would have really sucked. Last part, I'm just taking off these gloves and I'm using them to wipe off any excess epoxy that's on the tip. And I just removed the tape off the other end and inspected it real quick, and it was all good. It really didn't take much time, but I know what some of you are wondering, and you're asking, does it really hold up? Well, I didn't start going back to the gym until 2023, and I've been using that since 2020, so it's held up very well. The max weight I've loaded up onto it with just plates is 265, and then with the resistance bands, though I wouldn't say it really counts because the resistance bands where it's loaded on the platforms where I do the deadlifts off of, it's in the center of the bar and it's not on the ends, so I don't think that weight distribution counts. I'm not quite sure. I'd have to have someone else weigh in on that. I actually do plan on one day getting enough 50-pound plates to test out how much weight it can really handle. Would I do it again? The answer is no. Long story short, no. Considering the cost breakdown, let's do it. The bar was free. The metal bar cost me $57. The metal epoxy, $7. The plates, $1. The wooden knives, $1. Double-sided adhesive, $3. The Gorilla Tape roll, $16. And the total is $85. It's kind of maybe the same amount of money I would have spent getting an actual 1-inch barbell. Here's the thing, this barbell is only 6 feet long. And for reference, standard barbells can go up to like almost the same length as an Olympic barbell. Maybe a little bit shorter, but also this one has no knurling. So let's say when I was deadlifting really heavy and I was adding the resistance bands, it almost felt like there was magnets, just the ground was just made of magnets and it was just trying to rip it right out of my hands. The solution I came up with was I just wore really grippy scaffolding gloves. Yeah, it was a fun project to do, but I wouldn't recommend anyone else to really do this. There is another idea that I have. If you did want to stick with just standard 1-inch hole plates because they're really cheap, but that's going to be a whole other video. But anyway, it was just a fun project. It was relatively inexpensive, but there's better options out there. Anyway, thank you so much for watching and sticking all the way through. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. And please like and subscribe if you enjoyed it. Take care. Bye-bye.